Okay, Almaden Valley, here we are in May 2022 and the market is changing. Have you noticed all the real estate signs out? Have you noticed some of the properties seem to be sitting a little longer? Let's look at the data and talk about what's coming up in the market. Hi, I'm Theresa Wellman. Today we're discussing Almaden Valley market with closed data through April 2022. It is mid-May and I'm noticing some changes in the market. How do we explain those? What does the future look like? Well, we're gonna dig into that. Let's look at the screen. Okay, here is the monthly chart that we discuss all the time. I want to point out to you this yellow dotted line across the way. I know it's so hard to see. I want to point out that inventory in Almaden has really had a very steep increase in the last couple months. We've seen more and more homes coming to market. The pending sales are still strong, but as you can see, they've changed direction or slowed down the slope. The sales dipped a little bit and then popped up a tiny bit. So that's a good sign that we're not seeing prices totally down, but I will tell you, this is a little bit of a shift and a change. So pending sales are good, but lower than a year ago. I think the demand is changing between interest rates and prices. And the supply is getting up to more normal, pre-pandemic normal levels. I expect supply or inventory to continue to increase as we head into the rest of May, June, and July. And that's going to definitely slow down it even more as interest rates continue to increase and buyers just have more choices to choose from. So let's look a little bit more about the actual stats. So the median price is holding really strong in Almaden at 2.465. That's just slightly up from before, as you saw, which was a drop from a couple months ago. It's up 19%, almost 20% from a year ago. So pretty significant increases that we've had. That's the definite good news. About 60% of homes are in contract. So that's a drastic change from what we've been seeing. If you remember in the fall, we were up to almost 80%. Then we've been hovering closer to 75% of homes in contract. And now we're just at 60. So big change there. And that again is because more inventory and prices and interest rates are all going in opposing directions. The sales price to list price ratio closed out at 15.8% above asking price. But remember, this is closed in April, meaning they were sales that went into contract in March. And if you know, interest rates were just starting to creep up at the beginning of March, but here we are 6 weeks later and they're up a lot. So let's look at a little bit more of this days of inventory you see has really jumped up from before. That is definitely noticeable in the market. We've closed 34 sales in April. That's actually down from 2021. So that's something interesting to me. The number of pending sales also down from 2021, even though they've gone up seasonally. I think we're starting to see a peak already for this seasonal year as well. I think prices are leveling. We were at 2,447 the prior month, this month 2,465, so just a slight difference, but still really solid prices, like we said, up 20%. So if you're selling, you've got some great gains that you need, that you can capture. But I want you to be cautious about pricing as the market is shifting here, because you don't want to be having your property sitting, for sure not. That overbidding is decreasing, so list prices need to be a little bit more closer to the actual price that the seller is willing to take. And we need to just be cautious of the sales and demand that are down, because the buyers are getting priced out of the area, right? So stay tuned. I want you to hear a little bit more information. I see some trends from recent history as to what's happening right now. So I'm going to compare 2022 to some previous years and maybe help to get a foresight of what's coming ahead for the rest of the year. Now, interest rates. I keep talking about interest rates. I don't know if you're selling or you've been in your house for a while, you maybe just aren't really paying attention. You probably heard in the news that the Fed keeps raising the rates. Mortgage rates aren't directly connected to that, but the banks do anticipate what's going on, and they have been raising rates so fast and so quickly. We've seen since March 1 about a 1.5% increase in interest rates. I tell you, that is about a 15% hit on affordability for buyers. So it is significant, and that's why we're starting to see the prices level, because it just really affects the monthly cash flow for buyers and the affordability. So let's look a little bit about what's coming and what's happened. I mean, we've definitely had a huge increase over the last several months If we look back from from January to today, we've had an 11% gain in Almaden Valley. But if you look at this chart, and I'm pointing here to this area, we actually had a low point last summer in August 21. So those were properties went into contract in July and closed in August. We actually saw a little bit of dip. And if you look back, that's pretty seasonal for Almaden. We typically see a peak in the market earlier in the year, like May or June. So July and August tend to be a little bit softer prices, and then it kind of sometimes levels, sometimes continues to decrease in the fall. So if you're thinking about selling, I really want you to be aware of what's coming up. Like I said, you've got 20% gains from just a year ago, but you got to be cautious. You're probably not going to cash out on all of those 20% gains because of what's going on with the market conditions. Buyers, there's some opportunities there to work with sellers to get things done to your liking. So let's look what I talked about to stay tuned. How does the market really compare? Well, what I really wanted to tell you is, like I said, prices tend to peak in the summer sometime. I'm circling here the peak to the fall. And if you see some years it's sort of level, just a slight decrease. Here, same thing, bouncing up and down a little bit, slight decrease. In 2018, we saw a huge decrease with also a huge gain at the beginning of the year, right? In 2019, we saw a strong spring and then a softening in the fall as well. And in 2020, we saw a slight softening from the summer to the fall, and then it really actually started taking off again in November, December, and prices shot up again. So I think we're going to see a similar thing. I kind of feel like the year is a little bit like 2018. So if we look at the peak in 2018, it was in June. And we've had a little bit of bouncing around prices here, such a huge increase, like I said. And you know why I think 2018 is comparable to 2022 is that we had huge gains in Q1 and Q2. It actually took off in the fall, just like it did last fall. Really got some big increase, a little bit of settling, and then some more increase with the big spring push. And then prices really settled. Now, why is that? Well, first off, interest rates increased from 4.25% to 5% in that latter half of 2018. That really stifled prices. Also, we had really low inventory prior to that, fueling that market. And as you can see, the inventory got a little bit more normal in the fall, and that just divided those buyers out into more homes to choose from. So less overbidding, less offers on properties, not getting quite as strong of prices. So I expect that 2022, that latter half of the year, is gonna look like 2018. I know that might not be good news for everybody. Buyers, you might get a little excited, except that interest rates are expected to continue to rise. So I don't think it's gonna affect your affordability. Really get in as soon as you can to lock in the better interest rate. Sellers, you do need to be aware of what's coming for sure. So next, I think you should really watch my videos about interest rates because I know that's a huge concern. Sellers, you need to understand what's going on with this dynamic and what affects the buyer's affordability. Buyers, you need to understand the trade-offs of lower prices and higher interest rates and how that math works out. So definitely watch these videos on interest rates. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.